next guest, major finalist, former top 3 player in the world, closing in on 400 career wins. Let's bring in Milos Raonic to the show for the first time. Milos, it's nice to meet you. Got myself, Jeff, Sloane Stevens, Tracy Austin, Nick Monroe. How's your Saturday going?
It's pretty good, you know, just got my training in and trying to get back into it, and now watching some tennis. I'm a big fan when being here on the East Coast and getting to wake up to have tennis pretty much take up the whole morning and watch it throughout the afternoon as well.
Yeah, Milos, thanks for joining us, man. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you is kind of how much tennis are you watching these days? You have some favorite players that you kind of like to make sure that you're watching as well?
I mean, for me, a lot of the things I enjoy watching the most are the guys I have not competed with, really, because you're kind of also treating it as homework, kind of seeing what's changing on tour. I haven't been on tour much the last couple years, so most of my references are seeing these young guys breaking through in these matches against players that I know and I have an idea of how I would play against. So it's nice to see kind of what everybody else is doing out there, how players are improving, things that are changing. It's a nice way to stay in touch with it.
And Milos, you mentioned that you just got done training. How long did you train for? And I believe you said you're going to try to make a comeback for the grass court season.
Exactly. I'm still ramping it up. I was able to spend some time in the gym, still not able to be on the court day in and day out, but I'm able to hit 3-4 times a week, which has been nice. And then, you know, it gives me a couple more weeks that I can kind of ramp up, work my way up through kind of moving full all around the court, side to side, and then playing points and playing practice matches, and then go over to Europe early if all goes well to be around top players and kind of get into it and enjoy that competition aspect.
Milos, I want to talk to you about that top line right there because that was pretty spectacular. 2016, I believe John McEnroe was working with you there. Wimbledon runner-up. You beat Federer in the semifinals, lost to Andy Murray, who is the crowd favorite there. Take us through that run, beating Federer, and then the nerves of the final, playing against Andy, both of those matches.
Yeah, I think Andy was as much of a crowd favorite as Roger is pretty much anywhere he goes. So
what about this match right here?
It was 2 matches back to back.
Yeah.
Kind of against, I mean, icons of the sport, people I've always looked up to, people that every time I would be in the gym or in the locker room, you kind of look across and you try to almost mimic what they're doing because they are the ones pushing the limits. They are the ones bringing the best out of themselves, but in turn also making everybody on tour have to kind of push to new heights. And I mean, every aspect, I didn't get at this point to make the most of it, but I know that leaving those 2 weeks, I was a better player because of it. Motivated me, it gave me that energy, that spark to, you know, push through the hard moments and just enjoy them more and more each way.
One of many deep runs at a major. It's kind of perfect because as we look at the road in 2016, we were watching the Berrettini match, and we were talking about guys with big games. He's got the two-handed backhand. He likes to use the slice. Nico Jarry, another big guy, two-handed backhand. I think fans at home like to get strategy or swing thoughts from the great players like yourself. We had Stevie Johnson talking about how his slice sets up his big forehand. You're a player that uses the slice really well coming forward or to set up the big forehand. Can you kind of give us some thoughts of how you like to utilize the slice backhand for your game?
Yeah, for me, it was really to kind of slow down the momentum of the point. And then also if you get somebody looking down, right, especially on 2 hands, the advantage. So it gave me a chance to really get around it. My forehand was, or is still to the day at its best when it's a ball in the middle of the court. My forehand from the backhand side is more effective than my forehand from the forehand side. So that slice kind of resets that moment, gives me the time to really get around. And it kind of also gives the opponent a ball with no pace where they're kind of forced to accelerate. And if they don't, and they feel like they only play it 3/4 of the way to the backhand side, it gives me the choice of being in the position that I want to be in a point where I get to kind of dictate that middle with forehands. And, you know, that's been a massive success for me. And it's a big part of like setting up that situation for myself.
What a breakdown.
Yeah. Milos, you've been up to 3 in the world, 8 ATP titles, finals of Wimbledon, as we just talked about. What have you seen has changed in the game over these years? Because now you've had some injuries where you've been out for a couple years and then come back and now out again and coming back. What have you seen that's changed in the game?
Yeah, I think it's I think the game in a lot of ways has just been almost democratized, where everybody knows the right things to do to train. And it's a conversation I have often. There was a generation that you had all the best players were coming from academies. Now you kind of look across the board, very few are coming from academies.
Yeah.
It's almost because everybody knows what they need to be doing on court. You can do the YouTube videos, you watch across the tour what everybody's doing. It's kind of a discussion, and it's an open platform in that way. So I think there's no singular option or singular place that you have to go to become one of the best in the world. And I think that makes it so interesting. And like I said, you get to see what the other people around you do. It's kind of a fair share of knowledge across the board, and it just makes everybody better. So therefore, I think that the players from 50 on have really improved significantly the most. I think that's where the biggest difference is. Players 300, 400, 500, everybody knows how much time you have to go into the gym before you even step on the court. Everybody knows how to be a true professional, just like the top guys only knew before. And I think the broad level of tennis around the world is significantly higher because of it.
What do you think has changed kind of the post-match, or because we're seeing guys play at a later age, right? Novak, we're seeing guys 38, 39, 40. What are they doing outside of the court to be able to play at a later age?
I think before, like just speaking with former players, it's people only start taking care of that once they felt that they were falling behind on that. Now you're doing it from the age of 18, 17, 16. So all those extra hours, you never see the difference in one day, but it's kind of the thing that compounds and over time makes a big difference. So it's all those times that player at the age of 20, when everything's feeling good, put in those extra 15, 20 minutes before in a longer warm-up. Every single time they went, did an ice bath or did whichever system that they believe in, but they spent that little bit of extra time, just ends up buying you that longevity on the back end. And it's you just have to have that conviction that you need to do it, and it will eventually pay off, because it doesn't kind of strike you right away in those moments. You just get to reap those benefits far down the road.
Okay, I have 3 questions. I'm going to ask them all in one. I'm so sorry.
Three all in one?
Well,
Wow.
you
You got
asked
a
2
pen and
questions.
paper,
I was
Milos?
like, oh my
Sorry.
goodness.
I
Okay.
gotta
Write your
these
notes
down.
down,
Okay, first one. They had your all-time ace leaders on the board there. Would you consider yourself a serve bot? Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
but would you consider
I
yourself
think
one?
so. And I'd be proud of it, because I think some players don't want to be called that, but I'm very well aware of like what's made a career for me. Like my tennis story would be very different without my serve.
No, true, and that's what I love about you. So, okay, second thing
Question
is, we're on question 2. So you do consider yourself a serve bot, and you're proud of it. Then 2, what is your forehand grip? Because I admire your forehand, I think it's great, and I love it, but I feel like it's like pretty extreme, but I'm not sure, so I want to confirm.
Yeah, I would say it's like a semi-Western. I think there's like more extreme than it. Athletes with like a Western grip, but I would say it's more so a semi-Western. I've never understood like being able to like label it, because everybody just grabs it a little bit differently in that sense, right? It's not like everybody tries to put in like 3 categories, but
you're not
even
completely
just like
under.
a lot of people make an big instance on like the way my wrist is in on the serve, right?
Yeah.
And people think, and also my index finger points up a little bit more, and these kind of things. But I think I've always focused on like the technique of like, you have to, when you make contact with the shot is what matters most, right? You have to be at a certain point physics doesn't allow it any other way. So however you get there works for you.
I love that. Okay, and third question. Now that you're coming back and playing again, like playing more, obviously these guys are relying heavy on like analytics. What do you think about analytics? Do you think it's super helpful or no?
Yeah, I mean, I've used it a bunch, but to be honest with you, somebody can give you 30 sheets of paper. At the end of the day, I looked like about 3 lines that really made a difference for me. And I think that's the big thing, right? Everybody can make a stat out of something. Everybody can make a data point out of something and make it sound like it's the most important thing. But it's only a few instances and few data points that really make a difference. And if you get caught up in the whole thing and you want to be a data whiz about it, I think it'll get in the way of your tennis. But there's definitely important information, if you can weed it out properly, that can make an impact.
Okay, so Milos, this is Tracy. I have 2 questions in a row I'm going to take now because you are amazing. I love how your analytical mind works, but you won 91% of your service games in your career, 3rd most of all time. That is so impressive. And I want, for myself, for my son, for everybody out there, what are your 3 biggest tips on the serve that is so important? You said it's so important when you're actually striking the ball. What are the 3 most important things? Or if you have more, let us know.
Yeah, I think the number one thing that I find most when I spend time or like see younger kids working on their serve, everybody tends to work on their serve at the end of practice, right? It's the natural thing. You warm up in this, and you're if you've really pushed yourself in that practice, how much can you really pay attention to it? And so sometimes even starting off practice with serves, but you have to be careful you warm up the shoulder. Or another thing that I always tell younger players is come back for a second practice where you just hit serves and you start off that way. Because I'm an example of it, and you could say every serve bot is an example of it. It's the only shot that you can really make a career of tennis from in this game, right? Nobody's just made a career off just the forehand or just volleys or just the backhand, but the serve can have this incredible impact, and I think it's a shame to not focus on it.
So Milos, take us through
another big part,
this right here, because that's like the trophy position, but what's important right there technically?
Yeah, I think you see how the strings face down. It should face the back of your head. You see too many players coming in where the racket face is open, and it almost looks like a frying pan coming at it. And you just lose the ability to accelerate. You lose the ability to change rotations from the same ball toss, to change the angles of the serve. That's the most important thing. The way the racket faces.
What about your
you have to be
elbow
going
there?
at the ball with the edge.
Is your elbow important there, where that is?
Yeah, but I think if it's kind of comes with the racket face. If your racket face is open, the elbow drops down. Right. So I think it's one thing that can take care of a lot of the other things down, like the biomechanical chain. But I think all those things, but for me, I've always just focused on the racket face because it just seems to solve a lot of the other points that might come up. And I always think you should never, any piece of advice, you should pretty much be able to translate with 3 words. If you're trying to really explain it too much, it's really hard for players to be able to broadly accept it and kind of process it.
Milos, did your serve get bigger when you switched to ankle socks, and are you going to keep the low socks when you come back? We just saw that picture.
I gotta figure out. Those superstitions have to play themselves out on the practice court.
Okay.
I mean, it's an internal battle day in and day out to see what works and what magical trick might make the difference.
That's really
right.
good.
Milos, what was your most meaningful moment on court? As we talked about 3 in the world, finals of Wimbledon, but what was your proudest, most meaningful moment on the tennis court so far?
I think for me, the most overwhelming moment was I played the finals in Montreal in 2013 against Nadal. And it was, I think, the first time male mate got it. I was going to get into a top 10 on the Monday after, and it was announced as we walked out on court. There was kind of a standing ovation, and it was like the only time I would say I really got overwhelmed by a moment and got goosebumps in that kind of moment from it. And probably because it's not a moment that everybody would necessarily appreciate. It shows how much more it meant to me on a personal note. And it being in Montreal, being at home at a court I practiced on for years and years before I got to have and enjoy that moment. I think to me, that's the one that really stands out. And yeah, I got killed in that match after. But those 10 minutes, that like moment in that instance really is the one I would say, like look back with probably a few of the moments that I can only have positive memories of, right? A lot of the like disappointment that came in that final match is washed out by the importance of those 10 minutes for me.
And I guess we talk about the different moments and different matches, and you've been on the tour for so long. How has your training changed nowadays compared to when you say first got on tour or in the middle of your career? How have you changed your training now?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that changes is the narrative behind training. When you're trying to make it on tour, you're just kind of wondering, like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? And you're trying to do as much as you can. You're trying to catch up. You're trying to mature physically. You're trying to push yourself. And then older you get, it becomes more of a management exercise. And it's kind of been a frustration point for me because you don't always get to do everything you think you should. The narrative goes from what do I need to do to what can I do, right? Because you're trying to like also not have a negative impact where you do too much and you might lose time because of it.
Yeah.
And it's a balancing point I've struggled with. For my confidence, because I'm always the kind of player that just got confident by doing a lot at home away from the tournaments. I didn't need to play a lot of matches. And then also, the narrative of it hasn't been the most enjoyable because I just always want to push and be like, hey, I know I did everything I possibly could. And you have to put some limitations on that.
Yeah, I don't think there was ever a problem of you working so hard. Career high number 3, the highest ranked Canadian in history, something you must be extremely proud of. But I was digging in a little deeper, and Milos said that in one of the articles that you worked twice a day on a ball machine with your dad, Curtis, every day for 9 years. So take us back to that, spending so much time with your dad, and also looking back at that little kid. Did you think, okay, I'm going to be a Wimbledon finalist? I know you put all that time in, but what were those moments like, and what Curtis, your dad, meant to you?
Yeah, my dad, I think it was just him picking up balls, so I didn't get a chance to stop while I was on the ball machine.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of the story, I mean, to this day, my dad, which has been great for our relationship, has not told me a single thing about tennis. It was just always, hey, how can I help you? It's never been, he just was able just to be a father in the sense of, hey, are you happy? Are you on the right track? And, you know, with your kids, you can notice that without even asking.
Right.
But for me, the big thing was I just wanted to play tennis in those moments. Like it was 5 o'clock in the morning that we would come in the morning, and it was at 9 p.m. at night. That's when courts were available, and he would just constantly pick up balls, keep filling in the machine. I just wouldn't stop for those 2 hours each time. And
so
yeah,
4 hours every day on the ball machine. 4 hours every day?
Yeah, that was it for me. Wow. That was how I got started till I was good enough to be in the group. I started at 9 years old, right? So I wasn't good enough to be in the clinics and to play with other players. So that was my way of catching up over like 6-7 months. And then I continued doing a lot of it. It wasn't the only thing, but that was pretty much, it was 5 days a week of that and a 30-minute lesson to make sure I was just like learning the technique till I kind of caught up to that group.
Milos, we love listening to you. You're so analytical and thoughtful. We've been talking about Novak Djokovic at the beginning of the show. I want to ask you about Novak. What do you see in his game? Will he get to 100 titles? Will he win another slam? What do you think he's searching for right now to bring the best Novak out of himself?
I think from outside, and because he's gone through these fluctuations before, he had it after he won his first Roland Garros. Then the other time he had it after, I believe he just missed winning the Grand Slam in the same year. It takes a lot out of you. I think the most interesting thing with him is every time people have kind of written him off, he's come back, and it's been the same story for the big three, right? How many times did everybody say like, oh, Rafa won't be able to play that long with his injuries and all these kind of, and just, they love proving people wrong. And that's what makes him exceptional. I think for me, the most interesting thing is before it seemed like such a obvious formula that Novak had figured out how to get back quickly every time. And I think the biggest thing is once you get older, you just don't respond as quickly. So I think the big thing for him now is like more than ever, he's just needed the matches, right? So he's showing up to more tournaments. And it's not that he knows that he shows up to a tournament, he's going to play at least 3-4 matches. So it's been harder for him to time those moments around the big events. Whereas before, it kind of felt unfair because he would just show up and, you know, he knew. I mean, look at last year. Just have a year that's disappointing by his standards, but then to get everything out on probably a moment at the Olympics that could be very defining for his career and the whole body of work. And just, he's so much better than anybody else at that. And I think he's just trying to figure out, okay, how do I get to that again? And I mean, he'll figure out. He's the one that's pushed tennis in this generation more than anybody else. That's always, like, Lendl changed it with the fitness, I always say, and then Novak's changed it with all the things that you've had to do because you know he does them. Like with watching the food, watching all the ways you recover, all the different things you're willing to do. He's pushed that limit more than anybody else, and the whole game has followed and adapted to it because of him.
We got to tease all the fans at home. What is the tournament we can hope or expect to see you out there? Because we know we'll have the coverage here on Tennis Channel.
Yeah, I think I would love to be able to start Hertogenbosch and then Queens as kind of the ones and play a few weeks before, but let's see how it goes. Yeah, I don't plan on coming back for any of the clay court events. It would really be just starting on grass and just seeing what makes the most sense as we get closer to that timeline.
I think I speak for the rest of the TC family that we're pumped to see you on court. I think I'd love to see you calling some matches.
I know. I love it.
So we love to see that.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, keep it going on the court. Thanks for hanging with us, Milos. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us, and enjoy the rest of this the Madrid Open.
Thanks, Milos. Have a good one.
Later.
See you soon.
Thank you.